Augmentation Evoker is finally nerfed, and we have data mines on the new Havoc Demon Hunter rework in 10.2. We are also getting a lot of class changes. We're gonna be talking about the buff and the nerfs to the abilities, kind of hitting a lot of the god comp and the meta classes. But not only that, tier sets have also been kind of reworked, some of them that were not really functioning properly, and 10.2 is looking juicier. How much juicier? Well, let's take a look right now. And first on the menu, to get it out of the way because everybody is hot and heavy about it, the Havoc Demon Hunter rework. Now, we don't have access to it on the PTR as of recording this video, but we will have a dedicated video to it very soon with how it actually plays. Hopefully some gameplay as well, with maybe some ray testing ideally. But so far we have developer notes which kind of give us a clue as to how the Demon Hunter rework is gonna play out on the PTR. Demon Hunter talent updates will be starting to roll in as they become ready, which we don't know when that is, starting with Havoc 3 changes in this week's PTR build. So hopefully still this week. In some cases, talents may be missing or marked as a work in progress, but there are enough changes to the Havoc 3 and individual talents that we'd like to get in players' hands to begin gathering feedback. Vengeance and class 3 changes are coming soon. So whatever we're going to be testing with is just Havoc talent, not the full class. But started off, Spectral Size cooldown is now 1 minute and 30 seconds, which was 1 minute and 30 seconds with the second rank talented. Now, this leads me to believe that the overall cooldown has been raised. I have no idea what this means, because Spectral Sight will actually play out later into Havoc's tree. The cooldown of it is, I don't know. Father to the Flame Demon now revealed by Spectral Sight. Now, what does that mean, revealed by Spectral Sight? Because it sounds like you can proc it. Father to the Flame Demon now takes fatal damage from Eye Beam, Fell Devastation, in addition to Throw Glaive. So you can essentially just kill it, because sometimes you're just in the middle of the rotation and you don't have a way to actually kill the demon. Father to the Flame buff is now granted immediately upon killing the demon, was upon collecting the soul previously. Metamorphosis cooldown is reduced to 3 minutes, down from 4 minutes. This is general Demon Hunter stuff, by the way. Darkness now has a 15% chance to avoid all damage from an attack. Chance to avoid damage is increased by 100% when not in a raid. And First of the Illidari has been removed. And we can actually move into the Havoc tree, where Metamorphosis duration is reduced to 20 seconds, which was 24 seconds prior. Demonic Appetite is now baseline for Havoc and causes souls to generate 20 Fury, which previously was 30, but you don't have to talent into it anymore. Fell Eruption is now also baseline, because fantastic, more utility and survivability and things like that being baseline, so we don't have to choose between it and damage. Glaive Tempest cooldown is increased to 25 seconds, which was 20 seconds before, and the damage is increased by 15% with a soft cap, 8 targets instead of 5. This is actually an amazing change, because target cap is already very annoying, but this has been made a little bit more impactful to deal more damage and hit more targets as well. A much better option in big AoE. Fell Barrage has been redesigned. It no longer is channeled, thank the Lord, and it drains 15 Fury per tick, lasts until Fury is depleted, and the damage is soft cap at 5 targets as opposed to the previous 8, which seems to have switched places and kind of objectives with Glaive Tempest. But the fact that it's no longer channeled is amazing, because you just pop it and it just drains your Fury, during which time you can just constantly generate Fury, keeping Fell Barrage up for longer. I cannot wait to actually test this out. Initiative's effect is no longer triggered or denied by damage over time effect. Momentum, which is something that a lot of people have very controversial opinions on, now increases damage by 6%, down from 8%. This is probably to keep it in line with other competitive options and not make players feel forced to play Momentum, although then Momentum just becomes a lot less interesting. But it does last 1 second longer, 6 seconds now from the past 5 seconds, and the duration can actually stack up all the way up to 30 seconds, making it hopefully easier to maintain instead of capping out at like 10 seconds, which was something that you did hit, and now you can take it further, so you don't have to worry about momentum that much, making it easier to play overall. New talent, Inertia. When empowered by Unbound Chaos, Fell Rush increases damage by 20% for 5 seconds. This is usually great. This kind of feels like what old Momentum was like, because the old Momentum did give you like a big damage boost, and because Inertia sounds to be so strong if it remains 20%, I don't know if you're ever going to take Unbound Chaos and not take Inertia. So is this really going to be an option? We'll have to see. Fel Rush now enforces a global cooldown of 0.5 seconds, which was a 0.25 seconds, and Fel Blade now enforces a global cooldown of 0.5 seconds, which prior was 1.5 seconds. Overall, in the global cooldown department, this is a win. If you're going to be playing Fel Blade, who knows what the build is, but we all would love a smaller global cooldown. There's a work in progress, well, two work in progress talents, which one of them is Deflecting Dance. Blade Dance deflects incoming attacks, absorbing damage up to 15% of your maximum health. We remember the time when Blade Dance used to make you invulnerable for a short window to all of the attacks, which was taken away because it was a little bit too strong. Now it seems like it's coming back in the way of an absorb for 15% of your maximum health, which is still good, specifically in situations where you constantly take ticking damage. Another new talent, which is a work in progress, a Fire Inside. Immolation Aura has 1 additional charge and 30% chance to refund the charge when evaded. Ooh. You can have multiple immolation auras active at a time, meaning that this will stack its damage, which is great. I mean, that's how it sounds like it should be, which is a neat playstyle. We'll see how much it dives deep into immolation aura playstyle so we can constantly augment it, since it has been, you know, kind of going back and forth. Felfire Heart talent has been removed, and Fel Rush damage has been increased by 60%. And now we're getting to Unbound Chaos, which is now a 1-point talent, which was previously a 2, and increases next Fel Rush damage by 250%, which is a nerf, considering that before it did 200% on the first point and 400% on the second. However, Fel Rush baseline damage has also been increased by 60%, which, like, I'm not good at math, but the damage is probably the same, because a 400% increase on initial Fel Rush damage would have net you old Fel Rush damage to be about 400%, while the 160% new Fel Rush damage being increased by 250% brings it well over 300% overall damage, which is very close to before. You just have less damage into the talent and more into the skill, which, I mean, we can always assume that that's pretty good. Now, Critical Chaos is now a 1-point talent, down from 2, and has a refund chance of 30% of your critical strike chance, which prior was 20% and 40% on the second point, kind of, you know, hitting the middle ground of it. Dancing with Fate is now a 1-point talent, also down from 2, and makes Blade Dance final slash damage bonus be 25%, down from 20 and 40% respectively for the second point. Blind Fury now is a 1-point talent prior to 2, and I-Beam generates 40 Fury per second, which was 40 on the second point, 20 on the first, and has 10% increased damage and duration, which is a nerf because prior it went all the way up to 20%. Certed Glaive is now a 1-point talent, down from 2, and has been adjusted. Enemies hit by Chaos Strike or Throw Glaive, was only Throw Glaive before, take 15% increased damage, down from the 20% from the second point before, from Chaos Strike and Throw Glaive, was Chaos Strike and I-Beam. So it definitely pushes a Throw Glaive playstyle, which I am all for because it's very reminiscent of the early Legion playstyles of Havoc that I personally fell in love with. Growing Inferno is now a 1-point talent as well, and increases damage by 10% per, which was 5 and 10% for the 2 points before. And lastly, Isolated Prey has been adjusted. It no longer causes Fel Rush to grant Fury, now causes Immolation Aura to deal 30% increased damage, which obviously all of these things sound really great. We cannot wait to test them out, and we'll have a video all for you. As far as Vengeance is concerned, we actually have a 2-set bonus change where the chance to trigger reduced for each target beyond the first, because Vengeance tier set was kind of wonky. And with this, we can actually move to a lot of other class changes, buffs, and nerfs. Going to Blood Death Knight, the 2nd tier bonus now triggers from consuming runic power, which previously was consuming bone shield charges. Now, I want to say I told you so, and I called it before that the 2-set is poop because bone shield charges are very poorly consumed in single target, meaning that this had only real applications in AoE, and now we have it at runic power. This can potentially be really good considering that you're going to be consuming a lot of runic power. Now, it just depends how often is that trigger chance. Moving to Frost Death Knight, also tier set changes. The 4-piece has the chance to trigger reduced to 30%, which was 40% that we didn't know about, and reduces the cooldown of Empower Rune Weapon by 6 seconds, which prior was 10 seconds. It still seems to retain the chance to choose between one of 3 effects to reduce the cooldown of. Now, there was also an issue fixing Chill Streak not decrementing a bounce once it bounced off the Death Knight, which would have probably netted you overall more bounces, but was that really a bad thing in single target, I would imagine? Well, who knows? It's just numbers at the end of the day. So long as the class is fun, when the patch launches, it's going to be good. Guardian Druids, because their tier set is poop. Now, the changes... Okay, we'll see, because I'm not a fan. So Guardian Druid regeneration scales exponentially well with large numbers of targets, often resulting in resource saturation. This adjustment to Blood Frenzy is meant to tone down rage income in scenarios with large target counts. What this essentially does is Thresh's rage generation from Blood Frenzy has a target cap, which I believe it's 5 targets cap as opposed to uncapped before. Now, the reason why this is a very contentious change, in my opinion, from my limited playing with Guardian plus 20 keys, because that's where it kind of matters, is that prior to Season 2 tier set, you were very heavily reliant on that rage generation to be able to survive. Season 2 tier set gives you a lot of rage regeneration, which you're going to be losing because you're not going to be having it in the next tier set, and you're going to be losing the rage generation from Blood Frenzy on top of it, bringing it back to a worse rage generation situation than we had in Season 1, numerically speaking, from what we can tell so far, which is not a good state. Season 1 Guardian Druid was the worst performing tank overall, if I recall, from, you know, pushing keys and things like that. And since we're gonna have a poop tier set that was actually buffed with a 2-piece, making Dream Thorns now absorb 25% of the damage dealt to you, which was prior 10%, and Dream Thorns duration is increased to 45 seconds. And also, this particular Wowhead article doesn't seem to have the 4-piece change as well to Guardian, which essentially buffed its damage as well. Prior, each 40 rage you spent while during Rage of the Sleeper is active, its duration is increased by 1 second up to a total of 5 seconds. Cool, that remains the same. Your Dream Thorns become Blazing Thorns, dealing 10% damage prior. Now 100% of the damage absorbed and will be reflected at the attacker. Now the damage is actually good. I did say that this needs to be buffed like crazy amounts. This has been buffed 10 times. Now 10 times, because, you know, it's 100% of the damage that you take, and you get to absorb a lot more damage, also might bring a little bit more tankiness to Guardian. Now 25% damage absorption from the 2-piece is still pretty low, considering that it kind of functions like an ignore pain, and it functions after Ursock's Fury, which you're probably going to want to play, is still weak. I don't know if that particular issue has been fixed. We're gonna have to test it out and figure it out. Restoration Druid has Scenario and Guidance no longer spawn an additional Grove Guardian at the beginning of Incarnation of Tree of Life, probably to adjust the tuning of the spell, and Scenarion's Guidance now reduces the cooldown of Incarnation Tree of Life by 5 seconds when a Grove Guardian fades, which prior was 4 seconds, so slightly buff. Grove Guardians are now present on the totem bar. I have no idea if these changes are any good. Listen, Grove Guardians are really cool. I'm going to be playing Druid. I was gonna main Druid. I'm not gonna main Druid. You don't know what my main is. I am going to be playing Druid, and Restoration is looking like it's going to be pretty fun, so I'm gonna definitely test these things out. And all you Augmentation Evoker lovers out there, it's been nerfed, dude. Let's see what the devs have to say about this. Augmentation's contribution to the party, particularly in Mythic Plus, are too impactful and are making it difficult for other compositions to shine. Yeah, no shit. As a result, we're doing some targeted nerfs to their group utility by reducing the value of Aspect's Favor, Molten Blood, and Ebon Might. Aspect's Favor now increases maximum health by 2 and 4%, down from 3 and 6% respectively. Molten Blood absorption is reduced by 50% only in PvE, this remains the same in PvP, and Ebon Might now grants 8% of the Evoker's primary stat, down from 10%. The above changes will be applied over the course of PTR via a hotfix, so probably not all of them are available right now to be tested out. Now, these nerfs are very, very surgical, very, very tiny. Well, not very tiny. I mean, you're losing 2% main stat, which is a pretty significant amount, but it's good to keep them in check to not, you know, put Augmentation in the gutter. Sure, we want a nerf, but we don't want it, you know, shot in the back in the courtyard. Preservation is getting a nerf to Rewind, which now recovers 33% of the damage taken in the last 5 seconds, down from 40%. As an ex-Preservation main, I can attest that Rewind was my strongest cooldown. It's a button that you press that you don't interact with, you just have to time it right, and then it just deals all the work for you. Prior to this, in case you might have seen it, Spirit Bloom was buffed, and now the buff was reverted because probably too much healing. Moving into Mage, the Arcane tier set 2-set bonus, the duration of Forethought has been increased to 20 seconds, which was prior 15 seconds. To give a little bit of a buff. The Foresight now requires consuming 3 clear casting stacks to empower your next arcane missiles, which prior was 6, and after consuming 3 clear casting arcane missiles, your next arcane missiles will deal 150% increased damage to the primary target and 100% increased damage to secondary targets it hits. This sounds like really cool changes. We'll see how they play out with Arcane in the season. Fire Mage also gets tier set changes, with the 2-piece bonus now increasing critical strike damage by 4% per stack, up from 3% before, and the Foresight now increases critical strike damage bonus of Searing Rage by 150%, up from 100% with some dev notes. We are aware of an issue with the following crit damage bonuses not attributing the correct amount of damage to ignite when an ability critically strikes: Overflowing Energy, Wildfire, and Searing Rage. This issue will be resolved in next week's PTR build, so Fire Mage will be able to see all of these cool changes. Moving into Monk, Jade Serpent Statue Soothing Mist healing has been increased by 40%, and yay, I'd never ever seen the Serpent Statue do any reasonable amount of healing ever, but it was just free healing usually. Now, Mistweaver is getting a change to its 2-ser piece, with Chi Harmony now storing 20% of all healing, up from prior 15%. Healing Elixir has been redesigned as a passive effect. You now consume a healing elixir when you drop below 35% health and are not in a crowd control effect, because it wouldn't make sense to drink while you're stunned, I guess. Instantly healing you for 15% of your max health. You generate one healing elixir every 30 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. This is very reminiscent of the Shaman kind of cheat death mechanic, where once you drop pretty low, it just heals you back up with like no input from you. Very similar. I think this might be a little bit better because first of all, you have 2 stacks and you generate it a little bit quicker. Its cooldown is essentially 30 seconds. Unison's range is increased to 40 yards, which was prior 15 yards. Now, once again, as an X-main healer, having a limited range on any ability, any mechanic in your healing kits and class kit period just feels very bad, especially for a healer that's supposed to be melee, where you don't already have access to range control over the combat. Great changes for Mistweaver so far. Hopefully, we'll bring some life back into the spec. Windwalker gets dev notes. We are continuing to monitor the set bonus and the feedback around it, as the auto attack trigger was not accomplishing the intended goal of providing Windfoot only during lulls and quiet points in the rotation. We've updated the bonus to trigger off of all melee ability damage and normalized trigger frequency. The Windwalker tier set was a big meme because it definitely worked on auto attacks, and auto attacks have been a weird thing for Windwalker, and we're gonna have a Monk rework video soon talking about these issues as well. But let's see what the tier set does now, with the 2-piece bonus making blackout kick damage increase to 150%, up from 100%, which, you know, it's great, and the 4-piece cooldown reduction increased to 2 seconds, which was prior to 1 second. These changes obviously impact the tier set more, but probably the biggest change was to have the effect work off of all melee abilities. So essentially, Fist of Fury, Sun Kick, Spinning Crane Kick, things like that can also trigger, which is great. We'll see how it plays out. Very likely the trigger chance being lowered a little bit, because obviously, you know, you do more abilities than you actually auto attack. There's also some issues fixed that prevented Windfoot from being correctly consumed when Spinning Crane Kick was used, and another issue that caused Windfoot to be consumed when Dance of Chi empowers a Spinning Crane Kick. And more issue fixed, because there's a lot of bugs with Windwalker, okay, that prevented Dance of Chi from granting blackout reinforcement. And an actual confirmation of the 2-set bonus, where Windfoot, the effect of the tier set, now triggers off melee abilities in addition to auto attacks and has been shifted to a normalized proc model, and blackout reinforcements tooltip updated to reflect the updated cooldown reduction value. Overall, good changes. We'll see how they implement, because even if the changes are good, Windwalker has a history of having a lot of bugs, so we'll see how they play out. Now we have Holy Paladin, another contender for the God comp, having its healing reduced by 5%. Now here it says prior was 3%, so I imagine there were already nerfs coming into Holy Paladin. Now the nerfs have been increased. Hand of Divinity now increases the healing of Holy Light by 40%, which was prior 80%, so they cut the effect in half. Jesus. Saved by the Light's Absorb Shield is increased by 50%. This, dude, I don't, even after the rework, this feels like so lackluster. Is the Absorb Shield enough? Is 50% good? Holy Paladins, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm curious. Blessed Focus now increases the healing of Glimmer of Light by 40%, which was 25% before. We know that Holy Paladin struggles with maintaining the balance of value between Glimmer of Light mechanics and Infusion of Light mechanics, essentially balancing out the power of your Holy Lights and Flashlights casts, as well as Holy Shocks and all of the instant Word of Glory, because Word of Glory seems to have been taken a back foot step, whatever, in terms of power. Now, Merciful Aura healing is now increased by 20%. Got it down from prior 50% while Aura Mastery is active. Do you use Merciful Aura? Merciful Auras has its healing now increased by 20% down from 50% while Aura Mastery is active, and the overall healing of Merciful Auras has been increased by 15% baseline, essentially taking a power away from Aura Mastery and putting it baseline into the actual talent, which I'm always a proponent for, because we would like to not feel like a wet noodle outside of pushing cooldowns, but you know, a balance has to be struck so that cooldowns are also impactful. Now, Touch of Light healing now increased by 500% down from 700%, and Word of Glory healing increased by 10% baseline, which is something that I mentioned before. Word of Glory has kind of fallen off in terms of power compared to the other options of healing that Holy Paladin has, so it's good that they're still in touch with this and keeping it balanced. Barrier of Fate now creates an absorb based on 25% of healing done, down from 50% again. Got it in half, dude. Aura Mastery now increases the effectiveness of Devotion Aura to 12%, down from 15%. Nerfs and nerfs and nerfs of Holy Paladin. Listen, we know Holy Paladin has been dominating the healing meters, but are these too much? Dude, these sound like big nerfs. Jesus Christ. Oh, what are Holy Paladins doing? Now, Protection Paladin has a 2-step bonus addressed as well. It now grants damage reduction instead of armor. Holy shit, thank you. Maximum stacks reduced to 5, each granting 2% damage reduction, was 10 stacks, each granting 1% armor. This is actually a good change because this will go all the way to 10% damage reduction as opposed to 10% armor. Damage reduction is obviously always better. Now, it's still a Consecration playstyle that I do not like one bit, but it's a better Consecration playstyle, I suppose. Red has a big fat dev note as well. Due to previous bugs with targeting issues on Wrathful Sanction, the ability was a bit undertuned. Really? Following these bug fixes, we're returning the tier set bonus to better hit our tuning targets for a set bonus. Additionally, with the amount of uptime that the 4-set bonus provides, it was overperforming in tandem with a few of the retribution talents located deeper in the tree. We appreciate everyone's feedback and playtesting, and we'll keep making adjustments to this set's power as necessary over the course of the PTR. I play with it. I felt it was very strong, but it was also very fun. It wasn't broken. So let's see, the 2-set bonus. Expurgation now deals 30% increased damage, down from 50%. Okay. Wrathful Sanction now deals 50% of the main holy damage to up to 4 enemies, which was 20% before. So Wrathful Sanction does a little bit more. Okay. But Expurgation is basically nerfed a little bit. And the 4-set makes Echoes of Wrath now cause your next Templar's Verdict and Divine Storm to deal damage a second time for 25% effectiveness, down from 50%. So it is a nerf, because it did feel very strong. Okay. Now, I don't know if the numbers are justified once again, because, you know, no sims and no theory crafting yet, but, you know, if it keeps it in line, keeps it in line. But to be fair, this is one of the most interesting red sets that we've had. Definitely more interesting than the last one, and more interesting than season 1. So hopefully they don't gut it too much. Priest now has Power Word Life, costs 2.5% mana, up from 0.5% mana per cast. And Power Life cooldown decreased to 15 seconds, down from 30, but its cooldown is no longer decreased when cast on targets below 35% health. Now, I've played a little bit with this. It was always really fun, but having to always time it when a target is low kind of feels awkward to get more value off of it. It's not a mechanic that healers usually want to have in their kit, where they are more efficient when targets have way lower HP, because then you might be slightly incentivized to let them dip, which is, don't do that, healers, please. Power Word Life is now only usable on targets below 35% health. Okay. And Power Word's life healing is increased by 500% and no longer increases its healing on targets below 35% health. So essentially, it's kind of like a reverse execute for your friends, right? Whenever they dip before execute range, you can actually heal them for a lot, which is great because it's on a 15-second cooldown, dude. Still, I know that both pre-specs use this. Now, okay, we'll see how it plays out. Discipline, big fat dev notes. We heard feedback that Shadow Covenant and the talent tree in general would be more flexible and interesting if Shadow Fiend were a more viable option. So Shadow Covenant now grants a higher damage increase with Shadow Fiend. We've also tied in the duration with the duration of Shadow Fiend or Mindbender to make using Inescapable Torment more enjoyable. Well, finally, we've reduced the overall value of Shadow Covenant, particularly with Mindbender, and distributed some of the power into Penance to nudge Discipline a bit closer towards consistent damage instead of heavy burst windows. Sure, I think Discipline worked very well with burst windows because, you know, you ramp up to a point and then you just heal a lot because that's usually how healing is. But listen, if they can move healing away from burst healing to more consistent healing, I'm all for it, and I might just go back to healing some more. Ultimate Penance now takes into account your primary target and will prioritize healing bolts if an ally is selected or damaging bolts if an enemy is selected. Okay, so we have some control over it. Damage and healing increased by 25% and an initial tick has been added to the start of the channel. Great. Embrace Shadow has been removed. Twilight Corruption remains in its location and continues to increase Shadow Covenant's effectiveness by an additional 10%. Okay. Discipline has gone a lot of changes in 10.2, kind of like a minor rework. Shadow Covenant duration now matches the duration of Mindbender at 12 seconds, was 7 seconds with Mindbender Mindbender before. Shadow Covenant now grants 10% shadow damage, and healing increases with Mindbender, or 25% with Shadow Fiend, which was 25% with either one, so kind of nerfed a little bit with Mindbender. Shadow Covenant's visuals have been improved as well. Penance damage and healing is increased by 15%. Mindbender and Void Summoner have swapped locations in the talent tree. Void Summoner reduces the cooldown of Shadow Fiend by 4 seconds, or Mindbender by 2 seconds, which was 2 seconds before. So basically they're making Shadow Fiend more appealing, I suppose. Some issues fixed with Mindbender's positioning. Expiation increases Mind Blast and Shadow Word death damage by 15 and 30%, which was 10 and 20% before. Wheel and Woe increases Smite's damage by 20% per stack, was 12%, and Power Word Shield by 10%, which was 5% before. Great, more discipline buffs. Holy, with the Flash Heal and Heal buffs, Trail of Light was overperforming. Oh, we've seen that. So we're reducing its value to match its previous power level. We're also increasing the value of Pontifex since it was an unpopular talent. Finally, we're making Echo of Light Spirit faster so that it is more responsive to damage. Prayer of Mending healing is decreased by 5%. Prismatic Echoes now increase the healing of Echo of Light by 4 and 8%, which was down from the previous 6 and 12%. Echo of Light healing decreased by 15%. Okay. Divine Images Dazzling Light healing decreased by 35%, and Divine Images Blessed Light healing decreased by 20%, so big nerfs. Trail of Light replicates heal or flash heal for 13 and 25% value, down from 18 and 35% before. Pontifex increases healing done by Holy Words by 20%, stacking 2 times, which was before 10%. Double buff, yay. Echo of Light heals every 2 seconds and lasts 4 seconds, was healing every 3 seconds and lasted 6 seconds. Dude, Echo of Light got major nerfs, dude. So many things going into it. Okay, well, maybe it was warranted, maybe not, but we'll see. Rogue. With all the reworks going on with Rogue, Airborne Irritant has been moved to the class tree, was only an outlaw, and has been adjusted. Blind has 50% reduced cooldown, 40% reduced duration, and applies to all enemies near the target. Mark of Death has been removed. Now, this is really cool because you have an AoE crowd control option, considering that Sub lost its AoE kidney shot, and we'll get to that in a second. Assassination's Force bonus and Venomous Explosion damage has been increased by 230%? Dude! Listen, they were just off by 230%. Caustic Splatter has been buffed to 35% damage transferred, up from 30%. Dashing Scoundrel is now a 1 point talent, down from 2, so eventually freed up a point. Indiscriminate Carnage duration is now 10 seconds, up from 3 seconds before, which makes it a great change in terms of quality of life and optimizing your Indiscriminate Carnage usage. Sense of Blood now increases agility by 2 and 4% per target ruptured, which was prior 1.5% and 3%, up to a maximum of 20%, and before was 24%. Now, essentially, you just reach max stacks quicker, and each stack is more significant, but overall, is it the same damage overall? Is it more damage than before? It's more damage than before. And you get it faster. That's great. Now, Outlaw has Grand Melee, the Roll the Bones buff, adjusted, with now increasing damage by 5%, and Blade Fury deals 10% additional damage to nearby targets. Crackshot damage with Dispatch reduced to 75% of normal damage, down from 100, and Dread Blades have been removed. Dread Blades, dude. Dread Blades had no chance in Dragonflight, man. They added them in, they were weak the entire time, they took them out. Alright, well, Subtlety, Stiletto, Staccato, and Stunning Secrets have been removed, so no more AoE kidney shot. Gormaw's Bite cooldown is reduced to 45 seconds, down from a minute. Wow, Gormaw's Bite seemed pretty strong before. And Secret's Ignite damage increased by 12%. These are actually good Subtlety buffs. Great. Now, on the PTR, I looked it up. Stunning Secrets still has a node there because it was connecting to Silent Storm. I would imagine they would have to kind of readjust it, or probably put something else in its place. I don't know if that's their plan. There's no dev notes on Subtlety yet, so we'll see how that plays out. Elemental Shaman has had its 4-piece redesigned. When consuming Primordial Wave and for 10 seconds afterwards, Lava Burst burns your target for 25% additional damage over 4 seconds, and for 10 seconds, each cast of Chain Lightning causes your next Lava Burst to hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock for 100% of normal damage. Wow, this is a big change. This is a big change. Well, it's kind of like capped to 4 targets, so your 4-piece will only affect 4 targets in AoE, but it does do a lot of damage to those 4 targets. And red essentially excels at low amount of targets cleave, so it wouldn't be a bad design period, but hey, it's more interesting. Now, restoration has changes as well, with developer notes saying that Riptide, Healing Surge, and Healing Wave doing a lot more healing. Ancestral's Awakening power has been increased beyond intended levels, and now Ancestral Awakening heals for 10 to 20%, down from 15 to 30%, and now prefers to heal injured players instead of always healing the lowest health layer. What does that mean? Does that mean it sees all injured people the same and no longer takes health percentage into consideration? Why? Why is that a good thing? Now, the 2-piece has also been adjusted. Tidal Reservoir now heals for 15% of all Riptide healing, which was prior 20%, and now lasts for 15 seconds, which was prior 10 seconds. And the 4-piece has been adjusted as well, with the chance to create a new Riptide reduced to 5%, down from 10%. Now, I believe that last time we looked at this, Riptide has been getting a lot of buffs, but now we're seeing nerfs, so I'm guessing they're just keeping it in check with the recent raid testing, but I don't know if the raid testing that we've done so far is enough indication of anybody's backrow performance, but hey, they're at least on top of it. Affliction 4-piece is being redesigned as well, with Soul Rod granting 3, oh my god, with all these names, Umbra Fire Kindling, which increases the damage of your next Malefic Rapture by 50% or your next Seed of Corruption by 60%. Additionally, Umbra Fire Kindling causes Malefic Rapture to extend the duration of your damage over time effects and haunt by 2 seconds. But, well, in AoE, you kind of want to play Seed of Corruption always, right? So you never really use Malefic Rapture currently, and if they ever become both viable at the same time in AoE, it's gonna be a mess, because it sucks to have to choose one or the other. Extending dots seems pretty strong, but Seed of Corruption has more burst. Definitely the extension of the dots is very valuable in single target, considering you're gonna be using Malefic Rapture there exclusively, but I don't know how this affects AoE, because yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Demonology. All Nether Portal Demons damage increased by 30%. Wow. This is great because they chopped down Demonology like nobody's business, dude. Gul'dan's Ambition has been redesigned. When Nether Portal ends, you summon a Pit Lord that blasts your target for fire damage every 1 second for 10 seconds. Fire damage? What does that mean, blasts? Does it shoot at range? Fire damage is obviously better because, you know, it doesn't get reduced by armor. Demonic Tyrant's Demon Fire damage is increased by 30%, probably because the stacks that go into Tyrant have been nerfed, right? Reign of Tyranny has been redesigned. Let's see what they're cooking up this time. Summon Demonic Tyrant empowers 5 additional wild imps and deals 10% additional damage for each demon he empowers. Is this the redesign? Because they lowered the target count and now they're upping the target count. It still sucks knowing that you can summon a lot of extra demons, but Tyrant will only benefit a specific number of them. Ah, that feels so bad. Fixed an issue where you permanently summon Felguard would not benefit from summon Demonic Tyrant. Okay. Demon Ball damage increased by 30%. Hand the Gul'dan damage increased by 25%. Wild Imp damage increased by 25%. Good. Implosion damage increased by 25%. Good. Jesus, these buffs. Holy shit. Shadow Ball damage increased by 30%. Cauldron Stalker's damage increased by 25%. Grimoire Felguard buff by 30%. Jesus, these buffs. Immutable Hatred has also been redesigned. Your primary Felguard's Legion Strike deals 100% increased damage to its primary target. Your primary Felguard deals physical damage after auto-attacking the same enemy 3 consecutive times. What do you mean deals physical damage? Doesn't it do physical damage either way? Okay, I feel like the wording of this is a little bit weird. We're gonna have to see how it plays out. Now, the 2 set has also been redesigned. Demon Ball now applies a Doom brand that explodes after 20 seconds, dealing shadow damage to nearby enemies. Hand of Gul'dan reduces the duration of your active demon brands by 1 second per soul shard spent, and it doesn't seem to be tied to hitting the targets that actually do have demon brands, but that means you're gonna still have to tap target demon balls. Yo, okay, listen, in a way that's more interesting, a more interesting use of demon balls to apply doom brands, because it's kind of reminiscent of how Beast Mastery wants to spread the barb shot on multiple targets in AoE, and that's kind of the more interesting thing that Beast Mastery does. I don't know how to feel about this. In theory, it sounds more interesting to play, but I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of buffs to Demonology. Doom Brand damage is increased by 35%. The chance for Doom Brand to summon a Doom Fiend has been increased. Okay. And the 4 set has been redesigned as well. When Doom Brand explodes, you have a chance to summon a Doom Fiend that casts 5 Doom Bolt volleys before departing. Each Doom Bolt volley deals shadow damage to up to 4 enemy targets. What is this obsession with capping AoE, man. Dude, stop capping AoE. It's not fun. It's never been fun. Why cap the AoE? We already cannot pull more because the mobs have to stop and shoot from afar and the tanks cannot handle big pulls sometimes. Why? Oh, okay, fine, whatever. It sounds really cool though. It sounds really cool. I do have to admit, I'm bothered by the constant AoE cap, but hey, listen, as long as it's fun. Destruction has Rain of Fire damage increased by 15%. Good, considering that playing Rain of Fire has been kind of nerfed overall. The 2 set has been redesigned. Bolts from Dimensional Rifts now deal 25% of the damage dealt to nearby enemies. Immolate periodic damage has a chance to grant a charge of Dimensional Rift. What? Yo, what is the chance though? Yo, does that mean you're gonna be playing Cataclysm in AoE? Because you spread more Immolates quicker, but then Rain of Fire damage. Okay. Depends on what the chances are of getting a charge of Dimensional Rift. Now, the 4 set has also been redesigned. Dimensional Rift can now summon a powerful Flame Rift, which blasts 20 Searing Bolts that deal fire damage and an additional fire damage over 10 seconds. Now, are those Searing Bolts also taking the value off of the 2 set with 25% of the damage being dealt to nearby targets? That would be an interesting change. Warrior has Rallying Cry, now increasing the current maximum health by 10%, down from 15%. And Inspiring Presence has been removed, so they double nerfed. I mean, people weren't really playing Inspiring Presence because you don't really have enough talent points to spare for it, but if you needed it, it was there. Arms, Slam damage increased by 25%, and improved Slam's critical strike damage increased to 10%, was 30%. Okay, so they're buffing base damage, but they're lowering the crit damage. I don't know. If anything, you were using Slam to dump Rage. Protection, the 2 set has been slightly redesigned. Consuming Bleeds now grants a damage taken reduction to the warrior instead of applying a damage dealt reduction to the target. Oh my god, yes, this now has functionality in AoE. Now consumes 40% of the remaining bleed damage, was 100% when casting Shield Slam. That's whatever. Okay, that's damage. That's probably damage loss because it was doing crazy single target. And the 4 set bonus, Thunderous Roar cooldown reduction increased to 3 seconds, down from 1. Okay, that's pretty cool. More Thunderous Roar. Dude, these changes are nuts considering that we're just the second, third week of PTR. Very, very close, and it's looking pretty good. Some of the changes, like for Sub Rogue, are particularly weird because we did do a video that goes into the rework of Sub Rogue, and not sure exactly how these will impact, but you can check that rework out to get more details on the new Juicy Sub rework.